right. Let's get the recording going. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Practical Spirituality with Rabbi Yom Tov in the house. Welcome to everyone. If you want to watch this live, I sent a little link on, I'll put a hit link if you want to join me live. So, today we're talking about are the disgruntled, disinterested teenagers right? Are they right? And the answer is they're right and they're wrong. But let's break down the topic. Let's get into it and see what we can discover. And Avi, welcome to the session. And if you could put your camera on, that'd be great. And also resend me again that thing you had sent me originally 2 months ago. I never got to see, or a month ago. Something about I don't remember what it was. It was something about the Jewish community, and I don't remember. Anyway, Avi, are you a truck driver?
No, I'm a locksmith, but in between jobs, I'm in my car going from place to place.
What kind of car is that, man? Looks like a truck.
It's a Nissan 2500 high top, which is basically a very tall van.
Got it.
You can stand up inside.
Okay, let's get moving. So here we go. We're talking about the disgruntled teenagers and their the deals like this. You know, today I was playing a song in a band. I'm the bass player and backup singer of a band, and we had this song that and it was about the future and the past, and the elderly represent the past and the young represent the future. And the young represent progression, like moving forward in life. The elderly represent conserving the past and what we've learned from the past. You need both. And but what can often happen is that those that represent the past, meaning the people who are older and usually in control, they often wind up overstepping their authority. Now, young people are often unruly. You know, they're testing the waters. They're messing with the boundaries, the borders, and that's kind of their job. You see all young people do it. You know, if you tell your kids not to do something, they're going to do it, and they want to see if there's consequences. If there's consequences, so then they'll know that was a real border you set up. If they see you there were no real consequences, then they start to wonder where the actual edge of things are. And it's our job to be creating real edges to things and setting up the structure of society. But meanwhile, young people's job is to tear down whatever we build to see if there's anything real there. And what can happen in the power of those that represent tradition, those who represent, the past, and people who represent, the guard of all that's true. What can happen is you can become presumptuous and think you have a patent on reality. And once the older generation starts kind of wielding this patent on reality to this power that they feel they have, once the elderly start to, and when I say the elderly, I don't mean senior citizens, I'm just saying the people who run the system, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, maybe, that once you decide that you have a patent on reality, the teenagers just call it out. They're just like, meaning young people are just like, they don't buy it. They don't buy it. They don't think it's real. They're not interested. It's not true that you have the patent on reality. And 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 it just so happens that let me share with you like this. There's dynamism. See how my hand's going dynamically? There's ups, there's downs. That's dynamic. And all systems are dynamic, just like your heart rate goes up and down. And there's winter and there's summer and there's and the human body goes through cycles, especially women's bodies, and everything's cycling. Everything's in a cycle of up and down. And that's the dynamism of life. That's why you can't market something one way, in 2012 and then market it the same way in 2022, because they won't buy the product. Things change, and you have to be really on it. Yeah. You have to be really on it. Hey, Philip, how you doing? Welcome to YouTube Live. Anyway, you got the picture. Basically, things have to be dynamic. Now, what goes wrong is the people who are at the top of any system, the dynamism of the system, meaning the recycling. Because if you think about waves, they're really like, if you look at water waves, it looks like it looks like water's moving, right? In the ocean. Doesn't it look like the waves are moving? Guess what? They're not moving any water. It's amazing. The waves actually are not moving water. What's happening is the water itself is spinning in a circle as it goes. So like, for example, let's say there's 10-foot waves that are just rolling through the deep ocean, and you pour red dye into the ocean. The red dye stays right there. It doesn't move. And you just see the waves come through it. So you'll see the waves it'll be blue water, and then it'll be red, and then it'll be blue again. It doesn't go with it. So waves are cycles, and things are cycling on themselves. I imagine it's true if Jordan Peterson said it, because he's so well researched, but when he talks about the 1% that the progressives hate, meaning the elite wealth people, he says that even though that always exists, he says it turns over like every 30 years. It's like no one stays at that position, because what I'm saying is that the people at the top get nervous about the dynamism of life. They don't know how to handle the percolating, the coming up of new. But the new always comes up, and the new's supposed to come up. And that's the way God created the world. There's very few people in leadership who can accept the flow of life and the dynamism of a business or an institution or of a government or of a society in general. They don't know how to deal with it. And so in order to remain in power, you feel threatened by the younger, and you wind up just knocking them down, so you don't like it, go away. And they go away, and they create their own business, and they take your business down with as you lose in the competition. And so it's really God's way of keeping the world fresh. And that is exactly how the world goes. And to be a good leader means to be a good percolator. Now, he also creates personalities like my own, where we mess with the system, just like teenagers, only we're adults. And so we question everything, and they're rare individuals that will do that. But if you notice, I have no students. Now you might be saying, what do we, chop liver? Yeah, we're not your students. You're my soldiers, meaning your job is to go, take what I'm saying and go assert it in your own lives, in your own world. But I don't have like actual students. Think about rabbis. Rabbis throughout history, they had students, devoted students. But the people who have this unique personality, it's called a dynamic assertive. Their job's just to be rabble rousers, just to make trouble. And that's my job, to be a troublemaker. Now you have to do it very carefully, and I've learned how to do it carefully. And sadly, teenagers don't know how to do things carefully, so they try to blow up the whole system, but they wind up, getting themselves. They themselves wind up getting kind of ostracized and find themselves without community, and not good, not healthy. Because we always got to be able to play both individuality, and we have to be able to play group. You're always between individuality and group all the time, and the group is again structured by the elders, and the individuals are often the younger. Look at a school, like a high school. It's 98% populated by the younger, and then there's the 2% that are running the place. But the kids don't buy it because the elderly ossify. They lose their plasticity. Plasticity for Yiddish speakers means flexibility. When you think plastic, you don't think very flexible, but the fancy word plasticity actually means fluidity. Mahmoud Ben Minyan said, I like that name. He says, a wise mind is agonized by the deep thinking of his or her reflective mind, while the stupid man finds himself basking in his indifference due to his ignorance. Okay, that was very deep. And right now, this is called practical spirituality. So right now we're on a very practical level. Let's see how spiritual we get. Anyway, so the teenagers are calling, I don't want to use swear words, but they're saying, am I allowed to say bull? Am I allowed to say, Shimon, can I say bull? Yeah. Yeah. You guys, you're like, say whatever you want. So the teenagers are saying bull. And our job is to say to ourselves, well, if the teenagers are saying this is bull, so then it must be there's bull. I mean, we just had in the Talmud, like, that anyone who's, you'll like this piece. This is really crazy piece of Talmud I'll share with you. That another one just that I happen to turn to is that a man's words may inadvertently contain some prophecy of the future. So one should therefore avoid the mention of anything undesirable that could happen in the future, lest his words carry a prophetic message, which once expressed is less likely to be reversed. Be very careful of any negative things you say, because there might be a touch of prophecy in you, and it'll be hard to reverse stuff that you said. That's kind of an interesting thought also. But what I want to share with y'all, let me see if I can find it here. Where did that go? Yeah, listen to this one. Recently there were accusations of a man for having done pretty nasty things. Likely true that he did it, but we don't know. I mean, but likely true that he did it. Anyway, he was accused, and he committed suicide, actually, and left a whole generation of people who had been reading his books kind of completely baffled and don't know what to do with themselves, and they're a real disaster. I never even heard of the guy until after he committed suicide. I was just all of a sudden called by a ton of people. What do I think about this whole thing, and how do we look at it? And it was a real disaster. But I'm listening to this little piece here. It says, I'll do it all in English just because we're on YouTube as well here. So it says, and Rav, who was the name of a rabbi, said in the name of Rabbi Reuven, the son of Itzterovili, sounds Italian. He said, and some say it was taught in Brisa, So Rav Ruvain, the son of Rebbe Reuven, the son of Rebbe Yitzhak, said, this is what he said: a person is not suspected of something unless he has done it. How crazy is that? Person's not suspected of something unless he has done it. Now, obviously, when the Talmud gives statements like that, you got to keep reading. And if he has not done all of it, he has done part of it. And if he has not done part of it, he has thought of doing it. So can you imagine, like, stuff you think about can wind up biting you in the rear? Yeah, you might get associated with that publicly for having even thought of doing it. And then it goes on, and if he has not thought of doing it, he has seen others doing it, and and he was like, deep in his heart, he was like, wish I could do that. Meaning he was like, it wasn't like he saw others doing it and he was like, oh, that's terrible. He saw others doing it and he was like, yeah, they're enjoying themselves. You understand? Hey, greetings from Belgium. I love the international scene on YouTube. Very cool. And so, yeah, so let's keep cruising. Now, this gets challenged by Rebbe Yaakov. He says that there's a verse that says the children of Israel imputed things that were not so to Hashem, their God. Thus, we see that people are capable of entertaining suspicions that are completely unfounded, meaning they were suspicious of God, and that's clearly unfounded. So you see that people can have unfounded. Really, they were just trying to provoke God's anger for some reason in that story, and they knew that it had no basis. So it says that the people were jealous of Moses in the camp and of Aaron, God's Holy One. And it turns out they all accused Moses. Listen to this crazy. It teaches that every husband formerly warned his wife against secluding herself with Moses. Thus, Moses was suspected of a transgression of which he was purely innocent. They did this because of their hatred of Moses. By the way, leave it to Jews to be so honest in our own books about, like, no one talks about people hating, their saints, and here, like, the greatest rabbi of all time, the greatest leader, the greatest, most saintly man, the Talmud's very clearly saying they hated him. By the way, you know why they would hate him? They would hate him because his job was to bring down the law, and the law means that someone is not going to be able to do whatever they want to do. So anyway, there's a whole long story here. I'm not going to go into it, but the bottom line is, back to, I don't remember how we got on this. I'm a little embarrassed that I even brought that up, because it's a class in it of itself about accusation and what's the truth behind things. Meanwhile, let's get back to us. So when you have the kids saying that thing, this isn't real, this isn't true, and you have the adults saying they have the patent on things, and the kids are calling them out, the kids are right, and the adults have to back down. But how do you back down when you're a principal? How do you back down when you're the teacher? How do you back down when you're the people in charge? How do you move so fast to the dynamics of the world? And are they, and there's a lot of things that really are true that you're that the world needs, that you are putting forth. In the Jewish world, it's specifically a problem because in the Jewish world, we have an endless Torah, and we have a endless God with no definition. So when the powers that be give some kind of definition of God, well, that's automatically wrong, because God cannot be defined. And when the powers that be, stake their claim on Torah, Torah is it's endless. The wisdom is endless. So who are you? And what they'll often do, if they're really far gone, is they will make Torah into an idolatry, meaning instead of having the service be of God, they'll make everything about the study of Torah, when in fact, there's the study of Torah is one of 613 commandments. It's one of them. But if you make it all about that, and some kid who's a little more instinctual, a little more physical, he doesn't have that natural connection through study. That's and now we've made all of Judaism Torah. I mean, think about it. The 612 commandments are all about stuff to do. So instinctual kids love doing things. They love building thatched huts and stuff, which during one part of the year is a commandment to dwell in it. And so if you make it all about the study, and that's what makes you a good Jew, for example, what's going to be with 45% of the population? Because 10% of the population likes to sit on books. And then there's a breakdown of 45% are interested in people and 45% are interested in things. And so you can really lose people by doing that, make like holding when the elder generation who control things make they start defining God, and then they of course make Torah the end instead of a means to an end. So that's going to send teenagers for a loop. They're going to be like, nah, not part of that. But sadly, they're not getting. Who's going to tell them how holy they are? Who's going to tell them that God loves them? Who's going to tell them that God created the world for all of us? And who's going to tell them that the Torah is filled with mitzvahs for you to enjoy and be part of and to connect to? All they're going to get is disenfranchised. They're going to wind up smoking weed and drinking alcohol and falling, they're having their earth kind of fall out from under them. I'm going to check my chats over here on YouTube real quick. We got a few things here. Someone sent love. That's nice. Oh, that was Brandon. It's one of the 6. How would you explain Vegas about Yom HaValada? So it's someone asked why, but it says you should be constantly involved in Torah study. So how do you explain that? So you're supposed to constantly be involved in mitzvahs, but the problem is we can run out of mitzvahs. Number one. For example, if you put your tefillin on, well, you're done. You said Shema, you're done. Torah study is a mitzvah that you can do at all times, and so you can keep being involved with it. It's a very high endeavor to be involved in Torah study. You're studying the mind of God. And so that's for sure. You want to be involved in that. You have to decide what you're doing with your mental real estate. So if you're not involved, if your head's not in Torah, well, where is it? So you're allowed to make a living. You got to go use your brain for making a living. But you could have your head all over the place. So at least if you have your head in Torah, so you got your head in the right place. And then the other question is, well, what about the statement of our sages that says that the study of Torah is equal to all of the commandments? And the answer is that it's a really big thing to study Torah. It's really big and really important. And also, how do you do all the other commandments if you don't study the Torah? You can't do them. You wouldn't know what to do. You know, there's the actual 5 books of Moses explains like none of them. Doesn't explain any of them. I think it's my holy wife. Hold on. Hey, mommy, you're live on YouTube, Torah Anytime, and Zoom. Are you ready for me to pick you up?
Sure.
Okay, I'll call you soon. I'll call you in a minute.
Okay, no problem.
Bye. She wins. Anyway, I see I'm really jet lagged tonight. That's funny. I arrived Friday and Sunday, Monday went fine, but now I'm all jet lagged. Whatever. It goes in waves, you know, it can just hit you like a ton of bricks. And I just got hit by a ton of bricks. Anyway, blessing everybody. And we got one more, my Mahmoud Ben Minyan. He said, a wise person asked a question, what is the difference between the ignorant and the apathetic? A man answered, I don't know and I don't care. That's cute. You hear that? That was a wise person that asked. Okay. Shalom, everybody. Blessings. All the best. I was just staying consistent today. I didn't want to leave you guys hanging because I had a meeting for my child's, schooling. Okay. All the best. Bye-bye.